Are we live? Have we got anything here? Where are we at? What is going on? Let's see what we've got to work with here, folks. Is this working at all? Let's see. We're trying to make a determination if we've got any functionality whatsoever at this point. There we go. Looks like we're at least in business now. All right. Welcome to the 31st lap. A little bit of a rocky start there for us. I'm not sure what exactly was transpiring there. Officially on our way with episode number 194, flying solo tonight. Going to be catching up with here in a few minutes, we hope, with 10-time track champion over Canandaigua Motorsports Park, Mike Welch. We've got Facebook starting to light up a little bit with people wondering what exactly the issue was as we got going. Looks like everything else is holding together fairly decent for us in any case. So once again, off we go. Big news now as we focus our direction on Canandaigua Motorsports Park. The plan was that they were going to be having a test session this weekend. Now that is off. Given the wet conditions, the goal at this point is to instead put their eggs in the basket of a test session on Tuesday the 12th and go that route, which I can't really blame them. We've still got some pretty wet conditions everywhere here in the Greater Finger Lakes region, so that plan is still falling by the wayside. Saturday, April the 16th is going to be the scheduled opener for the modifieds. We got some news breaking on that this evening as well. Some more news coming out this week about the situation with the Race of Champions Tour and things along those lines. So we'll be getting to that here momentarily. But continuing to run down the litany of changes to the schedule already for Canandaigua Motorsports Park. Again, opening weekend back at the beginning of the month was canceled. The practice session for this weekend now has been canceled, and they're looking to do that Tuesday, April the 12th. Additional details yet to come. The plan is the season is going to open Friday the 15th with a regular show for the sportsmen and the 305 sprints. Big blocks will get some hot lap sessions on Friday, racing at 7 o'clock. Gates open at 5:30. Saturday, April the 16th is the game plan for the new Modified Madness program. 3,000 to win, 50-lap feature, Grit Sport, Series Cabin Fever 40 lapper on deck for the sportsmen, 305 sprints, crate lates, pure stocks, open street stocks, new legend sportsman racing at 6, gates at 4. Now, you'll note that there's a name change for that event for the opener. Canandaigua Motorsports Park has elected to drop the Race of Champions event, which is a little bit of a surprise. But I guess in the interest of everybody involved, they're going to put the attention on what they're doing at home instead of trying to bring in some other stuff. Officially, Canandaigua Motorsports Park issued the statement, Jeremy Corcoran, saying, as you can find the release all over the internet, I'm pulling this one right now from Dirt Track Digest. Love you, Mike. Canandaigua Motorsports Park, they said, I'm making a slight change for April 15th, 16th opening weekend at CMP. With the unsettled issues concerning the ROC series, I feel it is in my best interest and the competitors and fans that I pull the series off the schedule. Now, instead, they're going to run, as we said, it was the Modified Madness 50. There's some incentive programs that are tied to that as well. Anybody running in the Modified Madness on April 16th and the Super Dirt Car Series race on June the 30th is going to be eligible for a $500 bonus from DG's Restaurant Brewerton. The driver with the highest point total of those two is going to get the $500. Friday and Saturday the 15th, we just ran through what their schedule is going to be. Brian Simple, thanks for the note. I got you. That's good. I really can't tell you specifically what is plaguing our computer system right now. Thankfully, we've at least got the audio tracks up and running, and we can press on with it from there, and we'll see what we can get in terms of recording. Looks like we've only got one track recording, which is going to work out just fine for everything moving forward. Support class is going to be in action. That was one of the topics that we were hoping to get to through the course of the evening, talking a little bit with Mike Welch. I'm going to try him again here in just a moment or two. There he is. There's Mike. So we're going to give him a buzz, and we'll get into a little bit of that conversation with the support divisions over there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. Anxious to see what he's got planned. He's been very, very successful over there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park in the full-fender divisions. Just hang tight 1 second while we get Mike. There's Mike. Hey, can I put you in? Let me put you in here. There we go. We've got Mike Welch joining us here on the hotline. Good to have Mike on board for the evening to talk a little bit about that. We've seen the schedule changes. We were just kind of breaking down what is new with the schedule. Looks like you're going to have the opportunity to get on the track coming up here in just a little bit over a week with the game plan to launch on Friday the 15th and Saturday the 16th over at Canandaigua?
Actually, I'm running Utica Rome this year.
Okay. All right.
And Can-Am.
Okay. I didn't realize that you were making the changes there. 10-time champion over there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. What was the impetus for the change?
Because they basically took the pro stock class and made it a run what you brung class.
Uh-huh.
No, the only rule is you got to be on a 10-inch tire. So I didn't want to go that route.
Sure.
And it would cost quite a bit of money to go backwards down to a pure stock.
Right.
Because we had moved up a couple of years ago when Jeremy made the changes to go with the Can-Am Utica Rome rules, and it's kind of tough to go backwards at this point.
The division, since you've been in it, has gone through a number of facelifts. I mean, how much actually changed underneath the skin of the body in the different iterations that were there? I mean, remember way back in the 80s when there was the novice and the expert divisions. For that, you'd see the same car running multiple times, but that seemed like it was more of a pure stock. Then it evolved into a little bit more of a more race-focused entry, and then we got into the pro stock division that ran there for so long at Canandaigua. Then we hit the reset button and we started getting back into the pure stock stuff, and then it split and it had the street stocks and the pure stocks, and with all these ebbs and flows, how much has actually changed besides just the name?
It's changed quite a bit because the pro stocks now basically you can run a quick changer and where you can't with the pure stocks. They're actually going with the Outlaw Speedway rule book, which is a pretty decent rule book. As long as they stay to the rules they got and don't change them for the next 5 years, I think you'll see that class grow. And basically, I mean, that's the problem. They change the rules every year, and it just makes it very difficult for everybody.
You talked about having to go down. What's a budget for one of these cars like? I mean, we hear all the time when we talk to sportsman guys and the 360 guys how their budgets are fairly similar, and even those fluctuate greatly between the guys that might have two engines ready and a spare car and all the backup parts versus somebody who's just got one car, one engine, one combination, and they're just running on a weekly basis. What is the budget at the level that you're at right now?
To be honest with you, the budget that my car's at and probably several others in the pro stock division is very similar to what a sportsman would be. The only difference that I can honestly tell you would be the weekly stuff. And if you crashed, I mean, you can still buy a control arm for a pro stock for $50 and a ball joint for $20, and that kind of stuff's still pretty inexpensive. Where with a sportsman, you put a front clip on or axle and hubs, and we all know that they're not cheap.
Yeah, no question. Having won 10 championships last year, winning the championship on double point night at the end of the year, locking that title down, you finished in the top 5 in all 16 starts. Pairing that with some of the inconsistencies in terms of getting information out over the course of the winter, how hard was the decision to make the jump to run Utica Rome and Can-Am?
It's tough because, Canandaigua's home. It's not just a racing. Everybody there, to me, they're my friends and family, and and I love racing there. It's a great facility. It's just I either have to make the decision to move up to a sportsman, which maybe I could do it, maybe I couldn't. I don't know. I've driven one, but I've never really driven one.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to get enough seat time. It would take me probably a year to really do it. I'm not saying I couldn't do it. But, I mean, everything I got right now, it's pretty, I don't have to spend a lot of money because I got everything, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I got to travel a little bit more, and there's going to be some costs there, but the pay at Utica Rome and Can-Am, it's not too bad.
Is that additional travel going to significantly change your budget for the year? I mean, it seems like you're driving a long way, and I'm guessing that you're not going that distance to compete for the same purses as a modified or even a sportsman car would be running for.
Well, that's I mean, there's going to be additional fuel costs and wear and tear on my truck and so on. But Utica Rome pays a couple $100 more than Canandaigua did, and Can-Am pays $300 more than Canandaigua did. Mm-hmm. And it's like Can-Am pays $100 to take the green, where Canandaigua was $25. So I mean, some of it's going to get offset, but certainly not all of it.
Is that something that you look at and you weigh? You know, you've got the opportunity to stay pretty close to home. You live right there in Lyons. You're planning on making the trip out to Utica Rome. Are you looking at what it pays to win? I mean, having that you've had so much success, you got to be going into that endeavor with a particular degree of confidence. Are you looking at what it's paying to take the green and metering things out that far down, or are you just looking at the top?
No, I've looked all the way through. They both pay pretty decent all the way through. One part of the situation with Canandaigua was paying now is that my understanding is it's going back to $100 to win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I mean, that's, I get it if he doesn't have any cars, because the track has to be making money, or at least breaking even to be there.
It's still a business, yep.
We need the track, and the track needs us, you know what I mean?
Right.
But last year we ran Utica Rome all year, along with Canandaigua, so really the only, Canandaigua was like half an hour from my house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Can-Am on a Saturday is like another hour and a half.
Right.
On top of that, but it's certainly a difficult situation.
So with the transition of Canandaigua adding the crate late models to the program, did you consider at all making that transition? I mean, that's a huge swing. You've got to get rid of essentially all the stuff that you've already got. You got to learn to drive a different car. It's a completely different setup, but you've shown a lot of skill in pretty much every iteration of car that you sat in over there that's got fenders over the front wheels. Did you give that late model any consideration before making the decision to go to Utica Rome?
I have given it a lot of thought, and I'm basically just going to wait out this year and see how successful it is there. I mean, obviously it's a growing class because everybody is adding them, and I think if they promote it right, they could get cars there, and it's certainly something I will look at next year.
Is it something that you want to do? I mean, are you secretly sitting back there with your fingers crossed, hoping that late model program takes off at Canandaigua so that you can come back home and make that transition?
Yeah, I'd like to be a successful, so I can go into that. I mean, it is kind of an in-between thing from that to, you know, going to an open-wheel car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're still sitting on the left side of the car, and, you know, a lot of that is part of that transition, whether you go sportsman or stay where you're at, and it's just like the street stocks and the pro stocks except for the tracks to the east, seem to be diminishing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that is there's no consistency at any track with the same rules. You know, everybody's got, Ransomville's got their own rules for their street stocks, and Canandaigua, which now at least they're on the same as Black Rock rules, so hopefully they can share some cars.
I mean, you've hit on 2 points here in just a few minutes that we've been talking so far. The one thing was a 5-year plan for the rules to stay in place without changing, and the other thing is consistency. You know, from track to track, one of the things that we saw that was prevalent in the late 90s and early 2000s was every track wanted to have their own set of rules, basically locked on the drivers. That driver only had a car that was built to run at that track, which meant that they were going to be there every week if they wanted to race. And it seems like that mentality, at least on the driver's side of things, has shifted dramatically. And now they're saying, I have a car, I want to be able to race this all over the place anytime I want to at any track that I want to. And that opportunity, that option, isn't something that has a blanket implementation out, at least in the Finger Lakes area. And as you said, as you go a little bit further east, those tracks have stronger fields, and they've also got similar rule sets as you know, you're obviously experiencing right now, looking at running the combination of Utica Rome and Can-Am. How important are those two factors where you've got rules that you know going in aren't going to change, and that consistency, the ability for a driver to take their car to any number of tracks versus just one?
Well, I think it means a lot, because I think when the rules are consistent, you know, that does open up the opportunity to go anywhere. So, for example, if I'm running Black Rock on Friday night and it rains out, but Ransomville's running and they were running the same rule book, you could make that quick run up there and go support that track, you know, and the other way around. I think the consistency in rules draws cars, because if there's no changes each and every year, then nobody's spending any extra money. Every time you make a change, whether you're going up, down, or sideways, or whichever, it's costing somebody money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's tough. It's tough enough to do as it is without adding more and more to it.
Right.
I mean, I get it. Some things do have to change because as time changes, you know, things do evolve. Like some of street stocks, you know, you can't run the old steel body Monte Carlos because you can't find that stuff anymore. So
Sure.
you got to get it. You got to get it built. So they had to change the rules to be able to run the aftermarket bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that has to happen, but
Right.
you're changing cylinder head rules and transmission rules and rear ends. I mean, that's pretty costly stuff.
What was your take when your division? I think Mike Rasbeck was running with you, maybe at the time, and Adam was running there on a regular basis. You had Blaine Smith there on a regular basis, and you referenced the body changes when the flat deck cars started showing up and things really started to get tumultuous in that division. Was that the beginning of the end, or was there another underlying factor, or was that not a factor whatsoever?
I think that was the beginning stages of people changing what they wanted to do. You know, like Mike Rasbeck left, Andy Fisk left. You know, Blaine and I have been there pretty much through it all. Big Mike Manullo left, but, you know, he got his son into a Mark, which kept the car there. You know, Adam, he moved on. Kind of ventured back a little bit here and there, but not a lot. That was at the point where it was really starting to evolve again.
So at this point, at that point, let's go back to that point. At that point, it didn't seem like there was any major changes that couldn't be per se undone. But at the same time, you've got drivers that have already taken the step, they've made the change. Now you can't go backwards because you're a promoter who's afraid of losing those guys. If you keep going with the trend, you're going to lose the guys that didn't make the change, and that's when we started seeing the split. And when you take a class that only is getting a dozen or so cars and you start splitting it up, now you've got 2 6 to 10 car fields, and it's not strong. What at this point could be done to save it, aside of the streamlining the rules and things like that? Because you've hit on a couple good points about cost, you've hit on some good points about travel, you've hit on couple good points about fabricated parts, on top of regular parts being affordable that you can just go to your parts store. Do you wipe the slate clean and just start over from scratch again and bite the bullet and wait for it to build back up?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that Dirt Car has a very good pro stock rule book, which since Fonda and Albany, Saratoga, and Lebanon Valley have gone to that,
Mm-hmm.
Fonda's getting 25, 26 cars. Albany, Saratoga's getting 30. Lebanon Valley's right in the mid-20s. And that's double of what we see around here.
Right.
You know, Canandaigua's 8, 10, 12, 14. BlackRock seems to do pretty well at times. You know, they get 15 to 20 cars. If they have a higher paying event, they do tend to pull some.
Right. But the pro stock division, in and of itself, under the Dirt Car banner, seems like it's got a strong pull in the Capital District, and it's got a very strong pull in Canada. Our area doesn't have that, and it's been different spin-offs of that pro stock rule book that have given us different opportunities to see strong fields. BlackRock has had good success with the BRP Can-Am late models, where they would allow pro stocks to come and run alongside them. We've seen the number of facelifts that Canandaigua has, and the class that you ran in last year with Steve Paseric so successfully, the Minutelos, the Blaine Smiths, all the successful drivers that we've seen come through that class. It still isn't the same as the Jip Ortez, Pete Stefanski style pro stock. We've still seen some facelifts. So when we say pro stock, are we talking about the pro stock under Dirt Car? It looks like almost like a late model type car, an asphalt style late model, I guess is a fair way to say it, versus the dirt style late model with the open back end and the wider fenders and things that look a little bit more like the Dirt Car that you've run year after year.
Right. Now more towards the, like the asphalt late model style bodies. which is what dirt goes by right now. So
right, that's where dirt wants to be, and Fulton and Brewerton have also had some success with that crate late model program.
Yes.
So we've got those sitting in there. Now we've looked at where the pure stocks are, and then the next step above that allows you to do a little bit more, but we don't see that feeder process continue on anymore. It seems like the guys that run the pure stocks stay in the pure stocks. The guys that are running the street stocks or pro stocks or super stocks or whatever that next level you want to call them are kind of staying there. The guys that are running 360s, they may have come in and dipped their toe in, but it doesn't seem like that there's a lot of vertical transition among those classes anymore.
There doesn't. You're exactly right. There's not nobody is new coming in to that pure stock per se class to move up from that. It seems now that everybody comes in and runs like the 600 mini sprint, and now they're going sprint car racing.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to feed pretty well. Or the guy is actually just coming in and going right to a sportsman.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pure stocks, street stocks, and the pro stocks are getting skipped over a lot now.
Is it a financial? Is it finances? Almost strictly finances? Is there other aspects that are playing into that?
Maybe to some extent. I mean, I almost think nowadays that what you want, whatever you think you're going to end up racing, is where the people are starting to start.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to think you're going to end up running a sportsman, it seems like they go right into it. Especially now they have all these novice sportsman classes.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a stepping stone to go from that, then for a year, then go into the sportsman class. So I think a lot of people are doing that. Jeremy over there, they did it. They had some cars, and then it kind of faded away. I can tell you, like Ransomville has it, and they have 27, 28 sportsmen in their regular class.
Right.
They got 18 to 20 novice sportsmen in there. So they seem to be feeding through that way now, rather than coming through the ranks with the full fenders.
So why not go with a sportsman car? You laughed.
No, then it'd be like, I'd have to buy everything all over again, which I would have to do that even if I bought a late model.
Right.
But, I mean, neither one of those two are out of the question. I'm kind of waiting to get through this year and see how things pan out at Canandaigua, and, hopefully we can get back there one way or the other.
When you talked about the changes over there, making it a run what you brung, essentially with everything sort of being combined and stuff, what motor combination would you be going with at that point if you're willing to talk about what power plant you would have had in it anyway?
The run what you brung class?
Yeah.
I would have went out and bought a modified.
Yeah, you would have got a modified motor?
It just ran, yeah, because you can run with you can, as long as it's got 10-inch tires on it, you can run any chassis, any motor. There's no weight, nothing. You can do whatever you want.
Is that the kiss goodbye?
For that class, yes.
I mean, it's just...
I don't even believe that. I don't believe that anybody's even going to be there.
Yeah.
Because I know, Blaine Smith and his brothers are moving down. Tommy Barron converted his car to an asphalt car.
Mm-hmm.
And, Adam obviously is running a late model.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Newlow, he's going down to run the pure stocks and run outlaw.
Yep.
So everybody's just kind of gone away.
C.J. Guerrero's got a late model, and Steve Paseric moving up to late model as well.
Correct.
So I know more about your history at Canandaigua. I know, again, we're transitioning away from Canandaigua Motorsports Park, and we're going to be running Can-Am, Utica Rome. So let's talk about those two tracks first before we get into some of the accolades in last year. Utica Rome, it's been known for paying some pretty serious money. You've already kind of touched on the fact that they're paying more to win than Canandaigua. It's got more for taking the green than what you were previously offered. Sure, it's a little bit farther away. They got a good field of cars. It's a racy track. What's your experience in the past been with Utica Rome?
Like I say, when you started running there about half season 2 years ago, and kind of like that. And so last year we gave it a roll to give it a run to the championship, and we ended up second in points, missing it by 8.
Mm-hmm.
Came down to the last night. There's a good group of guys down there. It's a fast track. It's slippery.
Yeah.
It takes now you got to have a good setup, and you got to drive.
Right. What tire combination are you allowed there? You were talking about the 10-inch
Hoosiers.
tire.
You got to be on Hoosiers.
So, are you pretty happy with that?
Yeah, they seem to be all right. I mean, I'm an American racer guy,
Right.
as far as that goes, but the Hoosier seems to be okay.
Are we going to see you making stops at Rolling Wheels and/or Weedsport at all through the course of the year?
Weedsport doesn't have us, and I do believe they're working on adding a couple races for us at Rolling Wheels. Now that the Shea family took that over,
right?
So if we're added to that, we'll definitely be there.
What's your take on Rolling Wheels?
I love that place. Has a lot of room to race, and it's big. It's a fun track.
In a car like you've got versus something that's bigger, it's more open, like a modified. What is the sense of speed when you go spilling off into the third turn?
You feel like you're flying.
Yeah.
Obviously we don't carry the speeds that the modifieds do, but you're definitely hauling the mail down there.
What goes into making the changes? I mean, obviously these motors have been gone through. Your equipment isn't necessarily coming out of the factory purpose built, but at the same time it's been built, it's been gone through so they can handle the rigors of racing. At the same time, Rolling Wheels is so much bigger than what you're accustomed to. You carry so much more speed, you carry so much momentum. What changes besides just gear combinations do you have to make in order to be successful at someplace big like Rolling Wheels?
We don't really change too much different than what our Canandaigua setup is.
Yeah.
Like, basically the only thing we do is take gear out of it.
Yeah.
So, it kind of saves the motor a little bit because of the straightaways being so long.
Do they seem like they just last for days?
Yes. That's forever.
How about your experience up there at Can-Am? I mean, I've been up that neck of the woods before, and it's sort of the same thing. It's what the modified guys tend to like too. You made a reference to being slippery. It can be a smooth, glassy track that you got to be able to drive at.
Yeah, Can-Am, I've only run here like 6 times, and we've run pretty well there. Definitely a momentum track.
Mm-hmm.
They got the big corners, and it's pretty fast up there too. The only thing with Can-Am is they could probably use a few extra lights on the back straightaway. It seems like you drive, all of a sudden you're like in the middle of the night, but that's definitely a fun track.
So you talked about Utica Rome, and it came down to last night. You came up short by 8 points at Utica Rome from getting what would be a second track championship on the course of 2015. The last night at Canandaigua on double points night. You're chasing down Steve Paseric. You're playing it on his back bumper. He comes away with his 10th win of the year or something insane like that, but you win the war coming away with the championship. How rewarding was that 10th title?
Oh, that was real. We were happy with that. We only won 3 races, but we just stayed consistent. Steve definitely had the car to beat there. There's no doubt about it. But he had some bad luck, which ended up being our fortune, and we're happy about that.
Steve was a heck of a competitor every time he gets into a car. He's a ton of fun to watch, and I wish him the best getting up into the late models. We had a couple good conversations, and then we had him on the show one time, too. What was it like running with him? I mean, because he seems like he is so smart behind the wheel. He can make such good decisions. He can make the car go places that it doesn't have any business going, regardless of what make or model the car is. What was it like racing against him?
Yeah, it was fun. The guy's got a ton of wins and a ton of experience. And he's raced at so many different tracks that I'll probably never ever get to. So it's always fun to race against somebody like that and kind of see what the lines they take and what they do with their car different than what I'm doing with mine, and just sometimes you got to follow somebody to learn what they do and make yourself better.
To make yourself better, you've got at the midpoint of last year, you had 9 championships, and turned out you're well on your way to your 10th. What else do you need to learn to get better, per se? I mean, it would seem that you've got notes upon notes of what the track was like and what the car did and the changes to make and the vast wealth of experience. What are you trying to improve on within yourself when you're making a conversation and talking about Steve like that?
Just basically because the way that Canandaigua was surfaces, you don't never know what you're going to get from week to week. In the past over there, when Dirt Car had it, you always knew what you're going to have. It was the same track every week.
Mm-hmm.
And since Jeremy took it over, sometimes you ran first, sometimes you ran last, and sometimes the track's like black and super slippery the way it looks, and you set your car up for that, but it still had a lot of bite in it.
Mm-hmm.
So Canandaigua become kind of a tricky track to really get your car set up.
Is that a conscious thing of the track prep crew, that they want to make it so that it's more tacky? They want to make it so that it's more slick, or is that just a function of the remarkably unpredictable weather that we've had the last couple of years?
I think sometimes it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the promoters now and the track crew, they like to keep the tracks, hard, dry, and slick, because it takes the guy with the big motor kind of out of the equation a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, he's still there, but you don't need a big motor, and it allows the guys that don't have the big motors to be able to be in there and be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that's taken into play.
Does the tire combination that you're allowed? Utica Rome's got a little bit different option than what you had over at Canandaigua, so there might even be 2 answers to this. Does your tire compound lend itself better to one style track or another, given that you're not turning the incredibly high horsepower numbers, you're not getting the remarkable torque numbers in terms of your throttle response even? How much does that tire play into it versus something else like gearing or just the amount that your car's able to roll a corner?
The tire compound's going to play a lot this year. Utica Rome with the Hoosiers, you got to run the D60, which is a hard tire.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's got to be honest. Everybody's going to have to figure that game out. Where last year we were on American Racers down there, you can run any compound.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's hard to say what the crate motor might have an advantage with that tire on there.
Yeah.
Without spinning it. Now at Can-Am, you can run whatever you want up there. You got to be on Hoosiers, but you can run any compound. But for the most part, you still got to have a D60 and a right rear up there because it's pretty abrasive.
Uh-huh.
So the tires are going to be a little bit of a learning curve this year on the D60. I've never run them except for at Syracuse.
Right.
But I like them not at Syracuse, so I'm hoping the car handles as good at Utica Rome as I did at Syracuse with them. So we look forward to it.
So when you look at like some of these late model teams, especially when World of Outlaws late models came back in, they had a hauler for the cars and a separate hauler for all the tire compounds, and there was dozens of different tire compounds. Were you in that situation where you had a diverse array of tires, or did you just have 2 or 3?
I basically, with the American Racers, I stuck with 2 compounds.
Okay.
That was it. Otherwise, you can spend a lot of money.
Yeah, I would. Well, that's kind of what was going through my mind. It's like you guys aren't making enough to warrant having multiple, option upon option upon option with incremental differences and things like that. So I was kind of thinking to myself, this is crazy. But it sounds like it was a little bit more. Sounds like it was a little bit more reasonable with some of those tracks that you were getting the opportunity to visit. What track do you like better? I mean, you made reference a couple times now in our conversations, the ability to be able to drive the car, and it takes the big motor out of the equation. Do you like a dry slick track where you've actually got to drive the car, you got to find the moisture, find the grip, and work your way past cars?
Yeah, I do, because it's a little bit more fun, and it's more of a challenge. I mean, when it's tacky, anybody can go drive in the corner and the car's going to turn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the challenges. So being able to make that car work on a slick track, and when it doesn't work, you got to come home and see what you got to do to make it go. And I like that challenge.
Now, the car that you've got now, how much of that is actual factory-produced automobile from Detroit, and how much of that is purpose-built tubular frame?
The front clip is about the only thing on there that's factory-built. It's all 2x4 from there on back.
What's the front clip on that? Is it a Camaro or Chevelle?
Yeah, it's a Camaro.
Camaro.
But it's got the stock lower control arms and then tubular upper arms.
Gotcha. I'm just
thinking everything else is pretty much bought.
It's purpose built. I like it. Now, do you build your own chassis?
Actually, this is an EMS chassis.
Okay.
And when they get that, it's been a while.
So it's got a lot of races on it.
Yeah, this car's 10 years old.
10 years old?
Yep.
And is it just starting to get broke in?
Well, I think it's broke in. Not that anywhere. Fortunately, we've been lucky enough to never have any major wrecks, but it's a car I like. It gave me a lot of struggle in the beginning, but once we got it figured out, it's been good. It's
got you a lot of wins too.
Sure has.
Like it's giving you some struggle when you first got it for sure, but I tell you, it's made up for it. I gotta believe.
Oh yeah, yep, we're happy with it.
Take me through some of the memories that you got at Canandaigua that you remember. With that car, with cars previous or different divisions. Is there anything that sort of stands out to you as an important win or an important race, a pivotal turn that stands out in your mind?
I'd have to say probably one of the best race for me was, I can't tell you what year it was. It had been 2001, maybe 2002. And it's back when they still had to use Top Gun shootout in memory of Les White.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we got passed with like 2 laps to go by James Henry. And we went yellow, so we're going green. And the white flag comes out. And we're coming in the middle of 3 and 4, and I had a really good run on the outside, and I could see he was already cheering coming through 3 and 4. He's got his arm up, swinging like he won, and I beat him at the line by about 4 inches.
Wow!
That was good. To win that race alone was a great race to win, but just to win that kind of race, being that close, it's good for the racing, and it's great for the fans. That's what they pay to watch.
Were you close with Les White at all?
No, I knew him, but I didn't know him.
Yeah. You had a chance to run with some of the top racers at Canandaigua, conceivably that nobody's ever heard of. You hear about the modified division all over the place. Those guys get out and tour, but there's been some remarkable talent that's been in that full-fender division for years and years and years that don't really even get outside the confines of Ontario County. Who stands out to you as some of the guys that you really enjoyed racing against, and who are some of the guys that you really didn't like having to pass?
I always enjoyed racing with, Mike Welch, Blaine Smith, obviously, Pete Stefanski, him coming down the last couple of years. It's always good to race against a 4-time Pro Stock Mr. Dirt champion,
Right.
Probably Dave Manise, when he used to run the pure stocks, the street stocks, and he's been out of it now for a little bit, but
right.
he was Mr. Street Stock for a long time. He's got like 600-700 wins, so
Jeez.
It's always good to race against him.
Right. Who do you not want to have on your back bumper going through 3 and 4, coming to the checkered flag?
I'd have to say Pete Stefanski. So you know what, that guy, like anybody else, is hungry for a win, but he knows how to make things happen.
Yeah. It's funny you say that with Pete Stefanski, the things that he's been able to do in a race car have been remarkable. I mean, the wins that he's got, some of the come from behind stuff, the way that he was been able to get out in leads and just decimate fields and stuff. It's stunning to watch sometimes. Another guy that could... Go ahead.
He's definitely the class of the field, no doubt.
And then Jip Ortez is another one who used to. He basically could do the same thing. You can just get out and just run away.
Right. He was running pro stocks at Canandaigua when I first started running the pure stocks and street stocks. And then he ended up, when I moved up, or when they started changing a little bit, then that's when he went sportsman racing. If I never had the opportunity to race with Jip, it certainly would be fun. He actually helped me a lot. He helped me a lot last year with the car with some setup stuff that he used to do. And so, I stay in contact with him.
And I'm sure now you're sworn to secrecy?
No.
No? I forgot until you just mentioned James Henry had run in the stock divisions before he moved up to the sportsman cars. He was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, James was always fun to race with.
And
he was always fast, and he wasn't afraid to lay it to you a little bit if you needed to. I was all racing. You
talked about Les White and the Memorial race in the early 2000s. I've got this flood of names that are coming back that I haven't thought about in a long time. Vance Vanderwall, another guy that was there for a long time. Eric Chapman, he's still running there over at Canandaigua. I think Vance is in the lineup too. Daryl Burnett, Darren Fippen, Brad Steinruck.
Yep.
These are the blue 37. I'm blanking on the name. TJ. Was it TJ or Andy? Andy Fisk?
Oh, Andy Fisk.
Yep, he was another guy that was fun to watch. You've got this pool of drivers that is as strong as any at one point that we're running over there at Canandaigua, and it seems like that's little by little. And I mean, we've talked about Mike Manutolo, we've talked about the Barons, and there's such a legacy in the pro stock and street stock divisions with the motor combinations that had come out of that shop. But little by little, all of that has been whittled away. It's all been eroded, and we've sort of, as we've talked, we've seen that drift away, unfortunately, and now you're going to be going to Can-Am and Utica Rome this year as well. And I don't want anybody to misinterpret this. This was intended to be a conversation with Mike about his career and what his plans for 2016 are going to be. And it wasn't at all intended to be a beat up on Canandaigua or anything like that. That wasn't the point at all. So lest anyone take it that way, that wasn't the point. At the same time, I think this is something that promoters should maybe tune in and listen a little bit more keenly to. Somebody with as much experience, as much background as Mike Welch, who's saying some of these things and can serve a little bit as a voice of reason, as it were, with some other functionalities that are in place at other tracks where they're working together. You can see your entry-level divisions grow with a couple very small and very manageable changes, it would seem, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think it would take much. I think really if you got a rule book and you stuck to it and you were consistent with your tech, I mean, I think Tech 2 is the key to that. The more you tech, the more people are going to come there and race, because they won't feel like they're at a disadvantage.
Well, it's funny you should say that about the tech. I mean, we saw Brett Hearn and his team making the decision not to go get puff tested after the race there at Orange County, and that ultimately resulted in him not coming away with a successful venture there, and it was problematic. Turns out that there was more factors at play than what the Short Track Super Series necessarily had control of. There was some underlying factors that had nothing to do with the Short Track Super Series as a whole. There's a story that chronicles that closely that Mike Mallett just wrote that's appearing on DirtTrackDigest.com, where he sat down with Brett Dale. And, the cars are exotically different from your division to the modifieds. The money is an extreme swing from what you've got invested in your car to what Brett Hearn and his team have invested in their car. Nonetheless, you're still operating with the same passion, and you're still looking for that same level of parity, that even playing field, where you don't necessarily have to win every race that you're out there in. Much like any other driver that you're going to be in competition with this year at Utica Rome Can-Am or previous years at Canandaigua, you don't have to win every one of them. But you want to know the guy that is winning them is on par with what you have.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, no matter what level you're racing, whether it's a go-kart all the way to the modifieds, everybody, they all want to know that we're all racing against the same level, without somebody being 5 steps ahead of you.
Perfect world, what would you be driving?
What's that?
Perfect world, what would you be driving? Would you be driving on dirt? Would you be driving NASCAR? Would you be driving a Top Fuel dragster? Would you be driving an offshore boat? Perfect world, money not an issue. What would you be driving?
I think I'd be running a World of Outlaw late model.
Yeah? It's a good answer.
I don't know. They're pretty impressive.
If I remember right, we were talking last week down at Magnolia Speedway. They got a couple big races down there in Mississippi. Billy Dunn was down there and ran for about a week straight doing practice and stuff. We got to get him on here to talk about that. But have you had the chance to watch a lot of World of Outlaws late model races?
I did. I went to Volusia, so I got to see, whatever it is, 10 nights of watching them guys race down there. But other than that, I don't get to see them a lot.
Yeah. Are those cars not unbelievable?
They are wicked fast, especially down on that track.
I really believe that the late model, the dirt late model, rivals the modifieds in terms of my favorite race car on dirt to watch. I've loved late models for a long, long time. I had the chance to go down and work at With Raceway, where they had a couple different divisions of late models at the weekly class. And I know I've told the story before that one of the races that stands out in my mind was Rick Eckert and Del McDowell and Chubb Frank were about a half a lap apart with 10 laps to go at Lernerville Speedway. And with 5 laps to go, they were 3 wide in lap traffic. Just the way that those cars can do so much inside the car and dial the car in, and those guys, they just flat out know how to drive. Taking nothing away from anybody else. But, those big wide fenders, when they turn sideways and they can run just inches away from each other when they're staggered going through the corners, they're just such a pretty car to watch drive.
Absolutely. They're wicked fast, and you can see the professionalism and the respect them guys have to run, half an inch off each other at them kind of speeds. It's just an amazing thing.
Have you been able to carry the left front tire in your car?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't have anybody who's got any pictures of me doing that, but not to say it's not out of the question that it's happened.
I don't know. There was a Facebook video going around of like a 1986 Monte Carlo pure stock type car, and he was flying around carrying the left wheel up high, just like a dirt modified or a hooked up late model would, and he looked like he was doing a stroke of business. I don't know how he finished out for the couple laps that he was out there, though. He looked like he was an absolute animal. Have you seen that video? It was like a burgundy Monte Carlo.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm sure he was having fun.
At least for a little while. He looked like he had that thing.
Talking about him now.
Had it wound right up tight. Is there anybody that you have? I mean, on the topic of the World of Outlaws, is there somebody that you're a passionate race car driver, you're successful, you found good success pretty much wherever you go. At the same time, do you still get the chance to step back and be a fan? You talked about going down to Volusia. You had the chance to watch some races. Is there a driver that you follow?
Yeah, I've always been an Alan Johnson fan.
Yeah?
Just like from the first time I ever went to a race in Syracuse, back when Alan was like, I don't know what he was, 15 or 16 or whatever. Ever since then, just because they made such a big deal of him being so young, being there racing, I always kind of followed him. Now I kind of follow Matt Shepard a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hard not to follow him because he wins a lot, but yeah, I'm a true Alan Johnson fan to the end.
How about the late model side of things?
Probably like everybody else, Bloomquist, because he likes to put on a show.
Sure. It's a good choice. I like watching Rick Eckert. I like Steve Francis, and I love watching Jimmy Owens.
Oh yeah, Jimmy does good too.
Yeah, he does just fine for himself at Charlotte.
Yep.
How you talked about watching Alan Johnson when he was coming up through and getting a little bit of a taste of what Alan Johnson was like over the years. What got you into racing to begin with?
Well, I used to go with my uncle all the time to Canandaigua, and then my dad would take me to Leedsport. And back in 2000 is when I started racing, and Dandelion was running, back when he used to have the 3 classes over there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was right about the end of it. So it was like the last 3 races, and he's like, well, you're always there. He goes, well, I don't want to drive my car this year, the last couple races, so if you want to take it all, here's your chance.
Just like that.
I'm ready to go. I'm scared and everything, but we finished third the first night out. Then the next night, or the next week, we broke the rear end, fixed that, and then went back for the last race of the year and blew the motor. I got a little bit of experience with everything in the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, you got a rough baptism right there.
Yep.
That what made you want to stay with it?
I just kind of took to it. So we built a new motor for the following year, and I got 1 win that year. And actually, he went on vacation with his wife and so on. So he just told me, just go take the car over there. Me and Mike Rasbeck took the car over there, and I was talking to Mike Menudo. I'm like, where do you set your tires at? Just to see what the difference was of where Dan was telling me to set them. So they went with Menudo's set up with the air pressures, and then we win.
And that was the last time you got advice from Mike Menudo.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't talking to you after that.
No, Mike and I are pretty good friends. I help Mark out a little bit. We try to get him on the winning page, which he does pretty well for himself. That's
cool. I mean, that certainly made up for some of the struggles those first 3 races.
Yep.
That's interesting. So I still can't imagine somebody just saying, "Yeah, take my car over. Just go. Just go race it." Were you nervous at all that you were gonna? Oh, I guess the car had already been hurt a couple times before when you were out there driving it, so I guess it wasn't too much of a concern, right?
No. He said, whatever. If you wreck it, we'll have to buy another one or fix it. And I don't know. I know I've never been that nervous my entire life.
I can only imagine. What? Just wrap it up here. What are you doing now? Obviously, running this division, it's not allowing you to be a full-time racer. What are you doing now outside of the weekends?
What, as far as stuff to do?
Well, obviously, you've got a job that you work at full time, but I'm sure you've got some hobbies outside of racing too.
Just spend time with my kids and family. I work on the car, and actually, I'm going to be doing tech at Ransomville Speedway this year.
Wow.
So have all aspects of it. Last year I drove the pace car up there. The last 2 years I drove the pace car up there, and this year they wanted new tech there, so they asked me if I wanted to do it, so I'm going to give that a shot. So
on Friday you're going to Ransomville, Saturday you're going to Can-Am, and Sunday you're going to Utica Rome. I'm
on tour this year.
You are covering some ground.
I am.
That's crazy. Awesome. Well, man, is there anybody before we wrap up here that you wanted to make mention of, or that you wanted to just mention that helps keep the car on the track, keeps you going?
My sponsors, Dauber Sports Bar and Grill over in Canandaigua, they help me out. Master Parts Plus, Inman Sandblasting, Paul Cole from Champion Power Equipment, Supergen Products, my engine builder, Paul Gavenda. If it wasn't for him, who knows where we would be. And definitely my crew, Vance and Maynard and Nick and Brittany and my family and Tana and just everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people that make this thing happen for me, and I appreciate it very much.
I tell you, man, this has been a fun conversation. Talking with you a little bit about where you've been and where you're going. I learned a lot. Certainly learned a lot, and I hope this doesn't fall on deaf ears. I mean, you've got some great ideas in terms of, being immersed in it for as long as you have, having a pretty good pulse on what the drivers are looking for and what the drivers are wanting. Maybe we can start trying to write some of these pure stock, street stock, pro stock ships.
Well, I think it can all come back together. I can just tell you that, for an example, that the series that they're running, the asphalt deal there, that New York State Street Stock Series.
Yep. With Shamong and Spencer, right?
Yeah, when they started doing that a few years ago, they only had 12 cars, and I think my understanding is they got almost 40 cars registered this year.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it's the same thing, the same rule book, consistent rules, and, you know, a lot of names that weren't racing. Them guys are all putting cars back together to come run, so there's no reason why it couldn't happen in the world of dirt.
Little by little, just got to be willing to change.
Yep.
Well, Mike, I mean, I can't believe that we've been talking for almost an hour already. This has been very enlightening, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I look forward to hearing from you here as through the course of the season as you do your travels, and I wish you the best of luck at the Tech Building at Ransomville, and then of course with the new tracks with Utica Rome and Can-Am, man.
All right, I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on.
For sure, anytime. Look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
There goes Mike Welch, 10-time champion in Canandaigua Motorsports Park, making a transition this year to Can-Am and Utica Rome. Just about ready to get out of here for the evening. Had a wrong slide. There we go. Had a bit of a rocky week, sending our condolences out to the family of Eric George. Eric George was a gentleman who he wanted to get into running you've heard us talk on the show 31st Lap in the past about the Mud Boss division. It's an RC car that's built on the very affordable Traxxas Slash, which is popular. It's all over the place. There's a number of tracks in our home area now that are running it. There's a track in Fulton, a couple tracks in Rochester, Radio Hill Raceway, which is where I've raced the most in Dundee, Twisted RC in Auburn Mall, and now the bakery is getting ready to open here now that we've moved in closer to summertime. Eric wanted to get into it. He asked me to build him a car. Asked me to work on a body, and I was out to lunch on it. He wanted me to make the Chase Elliott's Napa number 9. After a lot of work, man, we got the thing done, and he said he didn't have the money together right now, but he was going to be getting back to me, and he asked me again several weeks later if I was still interested in building the car for him, and then within a couple days, I said, sure, no problem. Within a couple days, he asked if I would take a credit card, and then a couple days later, he said that he'd run into some things, and he wasn't going to be able to come through on that, and Eric went into the hospital, unfortunately, to get treated for, as I understand, leukemia, and something happened, and he got a very aggressive infection and passed away over the weekend. It was a surprise to everyone. Eric's not somebody that I ever met. I don't know him, but it was very striking to have that conversation, and he challenged me in ways that were very eye-opening, and I appreciate that. And the few conversations I had, I really was looking forward to finally meeting him at the bakery. And I know a lot of people in the RC community were touched by that, and we wish him the best. And Jimmy Aldrich, another friend of ours down in Pennsylvania, celebrating a birthday today. I know Todd Height was listening at home. He heard talk about street stocks. He's been really chomping at the bit, trying to get the opportunity to come together so that he can run one of these things. Now he's got some ligament damage in an ankle and a knee that's going to keep him out from doing any motorsports events this year and possibly part of next year, depending on how recoveries go. But hopefully he'll be able to do that. I know he was listening close and frantically jotting down the names of people he might be able to contact for any tips and clues on how to get going. But so wishing everybody the best, and our thoughts out there with Eric George and his family. Thinking of him too. That's going to do it for this edition of the 31st Lap. Great conversation with Mike Welch. I really enjoyed that. And we're going to cap it right here about an hour. That's going to do it for this edition, episode number 194 in the books. We are going to be off next week. My son is performing in a concert and with his 8th grade class over at the school here in town, so we won't be on the air next Thursday. But we will be back the week after that. And at that point, we're going to be right on top of racing action all over the place between Canandaigua and Outlaw Speedway is going to be getting ready to go too. So that'll do it for this week. Thanks for joining us online. Thanks, Brian Sipple, for the help early on and letting me know that we are actually making it out to the internet. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you all next time. Thanks.